In this video, I will talk about the basic strokes. I will also demonstrate why they are so important in modern calligraphy. First and foremost, because they are the foundation. Letters in modern calligraphy are actually formed from a series of strokes. And these are the basic, well, what we call the basic strokes. So there are 8 of them, and I will do a demonstration of the strokes and how you can apply them to write letters of the alphabet. So let's start with the upstroke. So the upstroke starts from the bottom line and goes in an upward direction in a straight line. So basically it will be a thin stroke. So as a quick reminder, whenever your pen goes into an upward direction, you draw a thin stroke, and whenever your pen goes into a downward direction, you will draw a thick stroke. So this is my upstroke, so a thin stroke if you like. I personally use it as an entrance stroke to each of my letters. This is a personal choice. Some people do not start a letter with an entrance stroke. I do. So let's take, for example, the letter C. So I will start with my upstroke and then I will draw my C like that. And I basically use it in each of my letters. But again, that's a personal choice. Not everybody does that. Some people just skip it and they just draw their letters. The second stroke, well, the second basic stroke is the downstroke. So this one, you start from the top line, you go into a downward direction, applying heavy pressure on your pen, and it gives you a thick stroke. This one, for example, I will use it in the letter T. So I will start my T with an upstroke, and then I will start from the top and go down in a thick line, and then I'll probably finish up with another upstroke, and I will have my crossbar here in the middle. The next basic stroke is what we call the underturn and has a U shape. So it starts from the top, going down with heavy pressure. When you reach the bottom line, you lift your pen to release the pressure, you move to the right, and then you go back up. And it gives that lovely U shape. I do use it in the letter A to finish the letter. So I start with an upstroke. I have the oval to shape my A, and then I will finish the letter using an underturn. I also use it in the letter I, so I start with an upstroke and I finish with an underturn. I also use it in the letter R, so I start with an upstroke, then I have a swoosh like this, and then I'll finish off with my underturn. I also have it obviously in the letter U, so I start with an upstroke, I have my underturn, and then I'll do a second one like this. And the last letter where I use it is the W. I'll first start with a compound curve, which we'll see in a minute. I'll then do an underturn, and I finish with a swoosh. Then we have the underturn, well, that I call upside down, which is the overturn. And this one starts from the bottom, you go to the top, applying hardly any pressure here. And when you reach the top, you move to the right, and then you apply more pressure to go back down in a thick stroke like this. This one I do use in the letter M, like this. I do twice the overturn, and then I finish with a compound curve. Normally, I'm not really happy with those one. I did them quite quickly, but normally there should be a bit more consistency in between your strokes. So those ones, they are quite wide. So this one should be a bit wider, and those one as well, so that it, you know, should gives you a kind of a consistency in drawing the letter. But that's okay. So the next letter where I use the overturn is the letter N. So I start with an overturn, and then I'll finish with a compound curve, like so. And here you can see there's pretty much the same width in between those spaces, so it's a bit more consistent. The next one is a sort of combination of the overturn and the underturn, and it's called the compound curve. So, and it looks like this. It looks like a V or an N. And you can find it in the M and the N, as we mentioned, but before that you can find it, well, if you follow the order of the alphabet, I have it in the letter H. I start with my upstroke, then I have an ascending loop, which we'll see in a minute, and I finish with a lovely compound curve. Then I said that we have it in the M, where you have first the two overturn, and then you finish with a compound curve. Then you do the same with the N. You start with an overturn, and you finish with your compound curve. I also use the compound curve in the letter P, so I start the P with an upstroke, then I do a descending loop, and then I'll finish with a compound curve like so. Then I have it in my V's. I'll start with it, and I finish by adding a little swoosh like so. I also have it in my W's, so I start with it like so, then I add an underturn, and I finish also with a swoosh. Or I should have stayed in black, doesn't really matter though. I'll just put that a bit on the side. I also use the compound curve to draw my letters X, like so. And then I will just use a stroke to cross in between. Then after the X, I also use the compound curve when I draw my Y's, like so. And then I finish with a descending loop and an upstroke. So the next stroke is the oval. So you draw it like this. And this one, where you have seen it already in the letter A. So I start with my upstroke, I draw my oval, and then I will finish with my underturn. I also use it in a C to help, well, it's not exactly a total oval, but it starts with the base. So I'll start here with my upstroke. Then I'll start like if I'm doing oval, but instead of closing the loop, I will just go back up with an upstroke like so. Then I also use it in my letter D's. Upstroke, oval, and then an ascending loop. It can also start as the basis of your E's if you draw your E's like that. Some people use a kind of a curly stroke to do their E, but You can do it, you know, basing yourself on the oval. So you will start like so with your upstroke, then you will do your oval, and then you will just close your E like that. Then you can also use it to do your G. So again, you start with the upstroke, then you draw your oval, then you go down with a descending loop, and you finish up with an upstroke. Then obviously you have it in your letter O's. There as well, there's plenty ways to draw your O's. I do it simply like that, starting again with an upstroke, then drawing my oval and adding a swoosh. So that's how I do it. But you can also totally do it like this if you prefer. I mean, again, it's a question of preference or style. And the last letter where I use the oval is the letter Q. So again, I start with my upstroke, I draw my oval, and then you can finish off like so, or just drawing a downstroke. Okay, so I'll move the page a tiny bit. So the next stroke is the ascending loop. So this one will be used in letters that go up until the ascender line and that form a loop, like letter H or D and so forth. But let's have a look at them. So instead of starting from the baseline, I will then start from the waistline, so the line that it's just at the end of the X height, and will finish up at the ascender line, at the top line. So I'll draw a loop that goes up, I turn to, and then I apply pressure and go back down in a thick stroke. So this is your ascending loop. So I use it to draw letters like, for example, B. So I will then start my B from the baseline with a basic stroke, and then I will start my loop, go back down, and then from here either you just draw a sort of a upstroke that it's not as straight as the one that we've seen there, or you can draw an underturn to have a lovely rounded shape, and I finish it with a swoosh. So that is how I draw my B's using the ascending loop. Another letter where I use the ascending loop is the letter D. So I start with my upstroke, then my oval, and I'll do the same. I'll draw my ascending loop, but you can also draw just a downstroke. Some people draw their D's like that, and it's totally fine. Again, it's a matter of style or preference, and I'll just finish off with an upstroke. I also use the ascending loop in my letter F. So I start again with my upstroke. I'll draw my ascending loop, and then I will go down and have my other loop and finish off with an upstroke. I also found it in, well, you can also find it in the letter H, like we've seen previously here. I also use it for my letter K, so again I start with my upstroke. I'll have my ascending loop, and here as well it's a preference. Some people just draw some curly strokes. I do something like this. And the last letter where I use the ascending loop is the letter L. Again, starting with my upstroke, then my ascending loop, and I finish with an upstroke like this. Then we have the counterpart of the ascending loop, which is the descending loop, which is basically the opposite. So instead of the letters finishing at the ascender line, then we will have the letter finishing at the bottom line, which is the descender line. So, and the stroke itself looks like this. So it will start from the waistline or the midline, and it will start in a thick stroke going downwards, and when you reach the descender line, then you release pressure, so you lift your pen, you move to the left, and you come back in a loop to stop at the baseline. So there are a few letters where you can use it. Well, there's one letter that it's not exactly that, but I used to do it like this when I was a kid. I used to do my F with this loop on that side, and nowadays I do it like that. But I used to do it like this, so I first started, you know, with my upstroke, my ascending loop, and I used to go back down and come like this. But I don't do that anymore. But I mean, if you're doing it like that, why not? Then you will definitely make usage of the descending loop. Apart from the F, the letters that I still do now with the descending loop, and probably most of you, is the letter G. So I start with my upstroke, then my oval, and then I'll do my descending loop, going back up. And I finish with an upstroke. I also use it for my letter J, my upstroke, my descending loop, and finish up with the dot and the upstroke. I also use it in my letter P, upstroke, descending loop, and my compound curve. Then I also use it in my letter Y. I'll start with the compound curve, and then I add the descending loop, and I finish the letter with an upstroke. And I also use it in my letter Z, so in the Z, but slightly changed, slightly modified. So I first start with an upstroke, then I have a swoosh, and then instead of going immediately like this, I will do a kind of a stop. So I will stop my downstroke at the baseline, and then I will do my loop. And finish up with an upstroke. Okay, so these were all the 8 basic strokes that are common in modern calligraphy and which we use as foundation and also as exercises to explain how to draw letters based on all these strokes. And also these ones are super important to build the muscle memory. So I always do them before starting any calligraphy exercise or practice or commission work, because they really put your arm into the habit of drawing the shapes and drawing the letters. So next to that, there's another stroke that I want to show you. It's not one of the basic strokes, but it's found in a few letters for different styles of writing. So I will take another color. So it's, I like to call it a kind of a curly stroke, and it's like this. It's like a reversed E, like that. And this one can be found in letters like B. If you don't do your B's like this, then it could be that you do your B like that. So still doing, an upstroke and then an ascending loop, but then instead of doing the sort of underturn, they will use this reversed E like this to do their Bs. Some people also use this to finish their P, the letter P, instead of using the compound curve. So again, they'll start with an upstroke, and then they will use that shape as well, that stroke. Another letter where you can find it is the letter S. So you start with an upstroke and then you simply add that shape here, that stroke here, and you have it like that. And the last letter where you can find it is if you don't do your X like this with an underturn and you want to do a combination of an S and a C, then you may want to use this shape as well. So again, you'll start with your entrance stroke, then you do your reversed E, like I call it, and then you add your C, and then you have your letter X. So these were the basic strokes. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching.